Sound check. Sound check. Calling all Foundation staff, do you read me? This is Dr. Theron Sherman. We are broadcasting live anomalously from Site-42. If you can hear us, let us know in the chat. And make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, all that YouTube business with your Foundation-issued encrypted YouTube account. That is your encrypted YouTube account and not your civilian one, Steve. With that in mind, let us start the show in 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Foundation staff. This is Dr. Theron Sherman, but you can call me Sherm. Welcome to another anomalous broadcast from Site-42. For those of you unfamiliar with our show, the rundown goes like this. Number 1, I brief you on any new Site-42 business, new projects, new team-ups, series, shows we're working on, stuff like that. Number 2, I introduce our guest for this week's show, if I remembered to book one. 3, myself and Schrodinger's guests read and discuss an SCP article. Number 4, we read off and answer your super chats. And 5, finally, for Site-42 patrons, after the main show, we do a quick bonus chat stream, the link to which will show up in your Patreon feed 5 to 10 minutes after the stream ends. Remember that if you enjoy the show, like, comment, and let us know, subscribe, hit the bell, and if you really want to help us out, become a patron at patreon.com/Site42 at the link in our bio. Tonight's Site-42 business, we have 2 pieces of minutia to get through. Number 1. Friend of the channel Raddagher is challenging us to get her channel on YouTube to 5K subs. She says if we succeed at that, she will release a full sound effects suite of SCP-682 completely free for public use. Now, I believe this task will be trivial in the face of the sheer might that is the Site-42 fam, especially after we got the SCP-Redacted live show over 5K in less than 24 hours. In fact, we did it less than 1K in less than an hour. So go sub to Rad. I left that in the description for you. Let's get that 682 sound effects suite released to the world. Also, watch their latest video, SCP Authors Exposed, because they rip on me mercilessly, and it's hilarious. Second piece of business, fellow TikTok SCP streamer Emotional Entropy is traveling to LA to go visit SCP Signals, the live-action SCP Immersive Theater experience. They are doing so this Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. So the way this is going to go down is I am going to be live on YouTube, watching their stream and making sure everyone knows where they are, because they're at 18K followers. I have a lot more than that, so I'm going to be playing, send people their way. They are going to be live on TikTok with the Critical Hazard Assessment team, or the chat, where you will be able to help them with the choose your own adventure aspects of the show, meaning that you will be able to help them make radically different decisions than the ones I made in my go, and that means we're going to be seeing a completely different show. They'll talk to different people, they'll do different things, and as Dr. Adelby told me, they are looking to sow chaos where I tried to sow order. So I heard they're going to be simping for 049 as well. So if that's your cup of tea, then you should be part of their Critical Hazard Assessment team this Saturday afternoon. With the Site-42 business out of the way, tonight's show we are looking over SCP-5681, titled Gehenna Arcade, written by SCP authors Grigori Karpin and Vivarium. And luckily for us, Grigori is here for us tonight, so let's bring him on. Boom!
Hello!
Hello, Grigori. Welcome to the anomalous broadcast from Site-42. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I don't know what you're talking about. Raddagher was very nice on that video. I came out looking like a champ. So
I seem to remember, I wish I had put Theater Kid on this person's list of sins. So, yeah, I think you got away a little better than I did, friend.
Yeah, well, I just talked about the wonders of, French cuisine and whatnot.
Ah, yes, I was, I think, a Europe sympathizer in that one.
Me too. Me too. I was pro France, which was on my cons, which, whatever.
All right, so tell the chat a little bit about your SCP writing history.
Well, I joined the wiki. I've discovered the wiki back in like 2015, but I didn't start writing for it until 2019, and I didn't really start going at it with gusto until probably pandemic, which, is true of a lot of people. So I got really into writing this sort of epic gothic horror story, and somewhere along the lines, I didn't stop writing that, but I started writing other sorts of things, including sort of the things that we're going to be reading tonight. And then, about 6 months ago, I started a podcast with my fellow SCP author, Harry Blank. And between the two of us, we have something like 180 articles on the wiki. And we host this podcast where we have guests on and we talk about like deep dives on GOIs, general themes on the wiki, and give certain recommendations, trying to curate actual articles from the wiki, because we've always felt like offsite communities don't always feel welcomed onto actually reading the wiki, and there's thousands of them, right? So there's so many articles, it's intimidating. So we thought we would serve to curate and kind of joke around while talking about articles and different random things. And we have authors on, and hopefully we'll be expanding that as well.
Fantastic. So that's you and Harry Blank on the Simply Creative People podcast. I got to tell you, this is one of the best ideas for a podcast out of, the cornucopia of SCP podcasts that we have right now, because you guys' focus on the GOIs specifically is just wildly useful. And, I'm going to be bugging you a little bit for help with that after the article, I believe, right?
Yeah. And the idea behind it was always to be kind of partially an informative resource and partially entertainment. And so we try to balance those things. Sometimes it's much more clearly us joking around, but and right now it's GOIs, but eventually we'll start talking about canons and things like, different departments in the Foundation. And we've already gotten lots of responses from people that have said this convinced them to give it a shot to join the wiki, or to dig into things that they had never really heard of. Like Wondertainment, for example, we had the author Dark Stuff on, and he gave us this incredible history of all the developments of Wondertainment, both in the lore, but then offsite as well, basically the different eras of different authors that have taken it through its journey. And we've had a really good time getting people involved with actually seeing both sides of the creative process, from the fandom side, but also from the creative side, because we also talk about, on every episode, we talk about our creative processes and how we write and come up with ideas and whatnot.
Absolutely wonderful. And for the chat from this point on, I have seen your notes that my mic volume was a little too low. I have made a switch to my gain, so let me know if that works out for you guys in the chat as we continue on. So, for SCP-5681, do you have any primer for us going in on this article?
A little bit of background. Vikander-Kneed Technical Media is the GOI that I created in January of last year, and had some other authors come on board to help me create it. And Vikander-Kneed is shortened to VKTM, or Victim, and they are ostensibly just a media company, but they're, as we'll see from this article, and if you go to read any of the other ones, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. It's just that they are completely opaque to the Foundation. The Foundation doesn't know what they're doing or why they're doing it. And I've always encouraged people to try and look between the lines. There's an element of humor, there's an element of horror, and usually there's an element of both. I try to kind of go back and forth in these articles, from something disturbing to something hilarious, or I try to anyway.
All right, and I believe you said you wanted to read some of this along with me, right?
Yeah, so why don't I read, once we get into the stuff, why don't I read I could read the main anomaly, the host, if you will.
That's what I was hoping you'd say. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let me move my microphone into the document reading position. Let me get right up in this microphone. That way everyone can be sure to hear what I'm saying here. And let us take it from the top. Item number, SCP-5681. Object class, safe. Site responsible, Site-43. Ah, so close. Director, Alan J. McInnes. Research head, Dr. Lillian S. Lilyhammer. Assigned task force, Mobile Task Force Kappa-43. Special containment, classification level 3. Special containment procedures. SCP-5681 is to be kept in High-Yield Data Storage Facility 1 at Site-43. The anomaly may be viewed under strict limitations, with explicit approval of Site Director McInnes. IO Metatron is to monitor electronic communications at all television studios for mention of SCP-5681 or Group of Interest 5889. Pictured is the stage featured in SCP-5681 moments before SCP-5681-1 enters the frame. Description: SCP-5681 designates a VHS tape containing a single episode of the game show Gehenna Arcade, sponsored and distributed by Group of Interest 5889, known as Vikander-Kneed Technical Media. The tape is intended to serve as a pilot for a syndicated series, to be viewed by entertainment executives in order to sell them on the merit of the show. Individuals who begin watching the recording find it difficult to stop watching. SCP-5681's other anomalous effect only manifests when a subject watches the entirety of the VHS in one sitting. In this scenario, the subject will develop a need to repeatedly watch the episode, foregoing personal hygiene, eating, and other activities in favor of repeated viewings. So, my average weekend. If the subject is restrained from viewing SCP-5681 for a duration of 24 hours, the compulsory effect will cease. Upon release from the effect, there is a chance for development of anomalous side effects, such as cognitive or behavioral changes. Discovery. On the 28th of July, 1991, Embedded Foundation agents in 3 major television networks sent out an alert for anomalous media recovery. The copy of SCP-5681 sent to ABC and NBC were retrieved without any need for amnesticization. Unfortunately, the copy that was sent to CBS found its way to Jeff Sagansky, president of CBS Entertainment. Mr. Sagansky was reticent to surrender the VHS tape to his assistant, an Embedded Foundation agent, suspecting a prank. Mr. Sagansky began obsessively watching SCP-5681 over and over, missing meetings and failing to return home that evening. At 0100 hours on the 29th of July, personnel from Mobile Task Force Kappa-43 were mobilized and covertly entered CBS headquarters in New York City, New York. Agents found Mr. Sagansky bent over, face pressed against the CRT monitor/VHS combination unit. Attempts to pull the subject from the monitor revealed he was catatonic. The SCP-5681 instance was recovered, and Mr. Sagansky was airlifted out for medical treatment. Footnote: subject was amnesticized and hospitalized under the cover story of a mild stroke. Treatment from Foundation physicians ensured his recovery, and Mr. Sagansky was returned to his family within a week with minor persisting cognitive defects. Contents of SCP-5681. At the opening of the VHS, the following description of the show appears. Gehenna Arcade is the next exciting project from Vikander-Kneed Technical Media, a classic game show featuring host Jeremy Kincaid. Footnote. Designated SCP-5681-1, and 3 contestants. Each segment presented features a unique sub-game. Scores are allotted to each contestant based on how well they did at the individual games. At the end of each segment, a prize will be awarded to the contestant who scored the most points. At the close of the show, point totals for each contestant are tallied and a grand winner is declared. The following is a transcript of the first segment. SCP-5681-1 walks out onto the set. He is wearing a black and white checkered suit coat, wide black tie over white collared shirt, and gray slacks. His skin is sallow, characteristic of an individual with advanced jaundice, and his eyes are consistently leaking black, oily tears. He smiles at the camera. His teeth are bloody and stained yellow. He is holding a long, thin microphone measuring at least 45 centimeters. Audience applause follows SCP-5681-1's appearance behind his podium.
Welcome to the very first episode of Gehenna Arcade, the game show designed to challenge the wits and physical endurance of our contestants like no other. Brought to you by the fine folks of Vikander-Kneed Technical Media.
The contestants come out and stand in a line on the stage. Kiara and Kevin look excited, while Sandra is sweating and frowning.
Let's introduce our three contestants, Kevin Fillmore, Sandra Gonzalez, and Kiara Bakshi.
Light audience applause.
Here's where I'll ask you each to tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I go to University of Washington with a major in criminal justice. Boo!
Oh no, Kenneth, you've already lost a point. Not a good start.
Camera cuts to a large scorecard with 3 parallel columns, each with one of the contestants' names over it. The sound of several dogs whining loudly plays, and the 0 under Kevin's name drops to -1. Actually, it's Kevin.
Right. So, Sandra, your turn.
I'm currently unemployed, but I just graduated with a master's in psychology from University of Texas.
And I'm sure you'll get a lot of use out of that degree.
Audience laughs. Sandra frowns again and looks down at the floor.
All right, so Kiara, let's keep this train moving.
Kiara opens her mouth to speak, but SCP-5681-1 interrupts her.
Oh shoot, just ran out of time. Let's talk about the game.
SCP-5681-1 beckons the 3 over to the front of the stage, where 3 wide, low platforms stand in a row. Each is approximately 18 centimeters off the floor.
So, this is what we like to call the trivia game.
The 3 contestants stare at SCP-5681-1, who is bending down to pat one of the platforms. He steps back and smiles. None of the 3 move.
What's the matter?
I thought you said this was a trivia game.
It is! Not afraid of heights, right? Turns to look at the camera with an arched eyebrow. The audience laughs. Get on the platforms.
All 3 stand on the platforms.
Now, members of the audience, remember, don't help any of the contestants.
Camera turns and looks at the audience, but none of them are lit. There are several dozen figures sitting in the audience, barely perceptible silhouettes not moving at all. Several sets of eyes begin to glow a dull red.
Great. I knew I could count on all of you. So, the rules are simple. The most correct answers get you the most points. Just shout out when you have an answer. And make sure you keep your footing. If you step onto the stage before the round is done, you lose 2 points.
A countdown overlay utilizing LCD numbers begins with 03, with an accompanying buzzer sound as each second passes. When the countdown hits 00, SCP-5681-1 begins asking questions.
What is the Fourth Amendment to the Treaty of Versailles?
All 3 exchange looks without speaking. Sandra visibly shrugs. After 30 seconds, a buzzer sounds.
I'm sorry. No winners. Audience?
The contestants are pelted by gravel from the direction of the audience.
Next question.
11 hours of footage are cut for the sake of brevity. The length of this segment is far beyond the normal storage capacity of VHS tapes. It is unclear how the tape contains this much data, along with 4 other segments. SCP-5681-1 continues asking questions, many of which were dependent on knowing fine details of historical and scientific knowledge. Each time the group fails to answer, they are pelted with gravel, sand, or what appears to be potting soil. By the end of that period, Kevin has 4 points, Sandra and Kiara have 11 points each.
All right, it's time to break that tie.
Each of the contestants are dirty and covered in small scratches where they had exposed skin. Sandra and Kevin's legs exhibit obvious tremors. Do I even need to keep playing at this point?
Yes, Carl, you do. We'll get you back to your criminal justice degree soon. Don't worry.
Boo! And they throw sand solely at Kevin. Kevin shakes his head.
Okay, what is the source of life on planet Earth?
God! Single-celled organisms developed out of proteins being created because of optimum conditions for the development of life.
I'm sorry, Kiara. That's incorrect. Sandra, close enough. You win.
Wait a minute, that's bullshit!
No one likes a sore loser, Kiara.
So, what do I win?
Win?
Yeah, the producer said there'd be a prize at the end of each round for the winner.
Oh, right. Well, I award you the satisfaction and the job well done.
That doesn't seem like much of a prize.
Hey, Jerry, I think I hate this one.
The following is a transcript of the second segment. SCP-5681-1 is behind his podium, smiling at the camera. His suit jacket is stained along the front with the black fluid weeping from his eyes and flowing down his face and neck. Each of the 3 contestants stands in front of blue door with their name labeled in gold.
Now, we come to the part of the show called Labyrinth of Death.
All 3 contestants look back at SCP-5681-1 with varying degrees of displeasure evident.
It's just a phrase. Come on. Okay, so each of you will enter the maze through your separate doors, and the first one to meet me on the other side wins the prize.
Hope it's a better prize than last time.
I heard that!
The scoreboard, having reset to 0 for each, shows Sandra with a -1.
It's like they don't know I'm vindictive by now, right?
Camera cuts to the audience. The seats are empty. The camera holds on the empty audience for 3 full minutes before switching back to SCP-5681-1.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
All 3 doors in front of the contestants open. Each contestant is followed by cameras to allow for continued monitoring. The screen split into 3. Despite the fact that each was standing within a meter of each other, each contestant is now alone. Kevin walks forward down a passage. He does not notice at first, but the floor begins sloping down. Sandra similarly leaves the starting room and finds a narrow passage that twists in a spiral pattern, which should have crossed with where she had come from, but does not. Kiara opens the door at the end of her starting room and finds a ladder going up and into open air. She climbs to a wooden scaffolding extending off until the horizon. She looks down and sees only clouds, the ladder, and the passage gone. She sits and hugs her knees to her chest, shivering. The host begins speaking over the split-screen footage.
Oh, and we're off to an excellent start. Kiara is basically struggling to breathe, but hopefully that doesn't count her out.
Sandra continues down the spiral corridor until she reaches a red door set into brick. It is roughly half the height of a normal door, and she needs to crouch down to shuffle through it. Kevin has found himself slipping as the sloping floor's angle increases, screaming until his voice gives out. Kiara manages to get up and move forward along the scaffolding, but it begins narrowing until it is less than half a meter across. There are no handrails.
Kev is making real headway.
Kevin continues sliding until he lands in a pool of brackish water, sinking below the surface for 30 seconds before breaching the surface. The pool is at least 2 kilometers in diameter. Sandra is crawling through a corridor that is getting slowly smaller in diameter as she continues. Kiara is holding out her arms for balance as she walks along the thin scaffolding until finding another ladder going down into the mist.
Oh, look, no one's dead yet.
Kevin climbs out of the water onto a pontoon bridge leading into an enclosed stone corridor. Sandra continues crawling until she reaches a wider corridor constructed of the same stone Kevin was last seen in. Kiara climbs down the ladder, through the mist, and finds herself in the same corridor. At the opposite end of the passage, a spotlight illuminates a single blue door. A blinking red sign appears above the door reading, "Exit."
And I'm whistling. I can't whistle, sorry.
The 3 contestants, now in the same room, continue down the corridor and begin jogging and then running towards the door. Kevin pulls ahead and slams open the door, throwing himself through. As he collapses on his knees just outside, it closes on its own. SCP-5681-1 is directly in front of Kevin, applauding lightly.
Ah, congratulations, Trevor. You've won.
The scoreboard shows an increase of 10 points under Kevin's name. Kevin stands and brushes off his knees. Yeah, thanks. So, what do I win?
Your life!
Screams are heard through the exit to the labyrinth. Blood and viscera flow through the space under the door. What the hell? You said Labyrinth of Death was just a phrase.
Sorry, I meant to say it is a phrase, because it is. I mean, I'm gonna shoot you in the face, Mark, is a phrase. Doesn't mean I'm not about to murder you.
Kevin bends over and screams, slowly sinking to his knees on the stage.
God, you'd think you'd be excited to win. Next segment!
The following is a transcript of the third segment. SCP-5681 is standing at the front of the stage looking out towards the audience. Applause follows for 45 seconds. SCP-5681-1 holds up his hands in a waving motion, as if to tell the audience to stop. but he is smiling. His entire face is covered in the black substance from his eyes, which are now 2 empty sockets constantly producing more liquid. His clothes are slick with the black liquid, such that small wet sounds are produced every time he moves.
All right. Enough of that. We've got our final segment of the show, and it's a fan favorite. Let's get our contestant out here.
Kevin is pushed into frame by a pair of hands off camera. He is followed by Sandra and Kiara, both covered in blood, but otherwise apparently unharmed. All 3 contestants have faces stained with tears and shift back and forth on their feet.
Wait, didn't you...
SCP-5681-1 touches his ear and starts speaking in a low tone, still audible on the recording.
What the fuck, Jerry? Didn't they die? Right. Okay, fill-ins. I just wonder about the brand, calling something a labyrinth of death isn't going to have a lot of impact with the demo if they ain't dead. No, right, okay. We'll figure it out in post.
SCP-5681-1 turns to the 3 contestants and smiles.
Well, Sandra and Kiara, looks like you've still got the chance to win. It all rides on this last game.
Turns back to the camera, still smiling.
What's that worth? Is our final game for the day. Contestants take turns guessing at the value of a revealed prize, and the closest wins points. At the end, we tally all the points accrued, and we announce a grand winner. Okay, contestants, are you ready?
Sure, whatever.
Okay, Connor, I'm gonna need you to perk it up a bit, alright? This is a game show. What about Sandra and Kiara? You girls ready?
Whatever gets me home the fastest. Sandra flips off the camera.
Excellent! Let's go!
Spotlights illuminate 6 doors ringing the stage, labeled with corresponding Roman numerals. Camera cuts to the scoreboard showing the totals as Kevin, -8. Or no, Kevin, 8, Sandra, 11, and Kiara, 11.
Right, let's give George a chance to catch up. You're up first.
That is not my name. SCP-5681 smiles and nods and gestures to the doors. Spotlight center on door number 1, which opens to reveal a rusted car missing its 2 front tires and the hood.
A used 1972 Plymouth Dodge. How much is that worth, Leo?
$100?
Girls?
Jack shit. $150.
Well, Kendall's closest without going over, so he gets the points.
Kevin's score goes up by 2 points. Wait, isn't that just the prices?
Shut up. Okay, next door.
16 minutes, cut for brevity. The game continues with the following items. A rotten apple core, a signed first edition of Dante's Inferno, a parking ticket. Footnote, none of the contestants got this correct, with SCP-5681-1 stating it was worth the lesson learned. And a 27-inch color television. The score at this point is Kevin 12, Kiara 13, and Sandra 13.
This competition is fierce. Let's see who comes out on top. Final door, please.
The spotlight center on door 6, which opens to reveal a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminal Justice from University of Washington. The name has been filled out to read Kevin Fillmore. Oh, what in the hell? $23,000. $24,500.
Friends!
Sandra and Kiara are ushered off stage by production assistants, while SCP-5681-1 approaches Kevin.
God damn, what an upset! You were so far behind, but you pulled it off, my boy.
I didn't even guess.
Well, you knew the value in your heart, and that's what matters. 6 years of wasted effort and a chance to join a police academy to help oppressed people of color and other marginalized minorities. Aren't you proud?
I don't even think I want to be a cop or...
Who cares? Well, that's going to do it here for Gehenna Arcade. Make sure to tune in same day, same channel, sponsored by Vikander-Kneed Technical Media for a better tomorrow. Damn.
SCP-5681-1 appears to pronounce the trademark symbol. All researchers viewing the tape report this effect, but are unable to explain it, as am I right at this moment. Wait, I don't even win anything?
Oh, right. You do.
SCP-5681-1 reaches into his inner suit coat pocket, pulling out a slip of paper. It is slick with the black substance covering the entity's clothes and face. SCP-5681-1 slaps it against Kevin's chest. It sticks to his clothing.
A $50 gift certificate to Red Lobster! Congratulations!
Jesus, what even is that stuff?
Aw, he's already started the otherizing process against those different from himself. Isn't it cute, folks? Little baby police officer Kevin.
You're a dick.
Recap! Good night, America!
Update, 13th of October, 1991. Follow-up research revealed that all 3 contestants are who they claim to be, and are unharmed by the experience. All 3, when interviewed, invariably failed to remember the events of filming. Kevin Fillmore continues to pursue his criminal justice degree. He is set to graduate in May 1996. What in tarnation?
Well, yeah, let me give you a deep description of what's going on here. No, actually, I don't think I will.
Oh, psyched out.
Yeah, so this is a good example of victim. They're all sort of different. They're all different media, although sometimes we have done similar ones. But they all have kind of at its core the idea of some social commentary, but fit in with absurdity. And usually absurdity that is like just balancing between horror and humor. And my favorite part is figuring out how people react, because I have had a significant amount of people that have come to me and said, this is disturbing, or one of the other articles was disturbing. And I just write them because I think they're funny. It could be because I'm broken. I'm not sure.
I like the Labyrinth of Death. The imagery in the Labyrinth of Death really did well with the horror aspect of it. I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah. No, I kind of am always trying to keep the reader guessing with these, I think. It's not even intentional. It's just that's how the first one started, and I've tried to keep that tone up. Although some of them kind of lean harder into horror or lean harder into humor. But a lot of them kind of find this balance where the tone of the message is often told in this very either sardonic or very corporate sort of positivity. But then the actual context of the message is either disturbing or fairly dark.
Up until this point, my only exposure to Victim here was the Victim Novelty Twitter account. And so,
I've never even heard of that.
Never even heard of that. No. And the memorable things for me are the heavy level branding, and I can't tell if it's capitalist or anti-capitalist. It seems to be both, maybe?
Yeah, so I have had multiple people try to nail me down about political philosophy of Vikander-Kneed, and I mostly have said no comment. But what I will say, their political philosophy is summarized in such that hierarchical power structures can go fuck themselves, and that's about it.
And man, oh man, what was it? Also, I think there was a recent tweet about Satan.
Oh yeah, there definitely was.
Is that that's just the MO over here?
I will think about things that I think are funny about corporate. I mean, sometimes I'll look at like promoted tweets or things on TikTok, and I will try to mimic the tone while changing the context significantly. For example, the one you're talking about is there are those that would say that Victim is anti-religion. This is categorically false. We're pro-religion. We want you to worship the media. Call now for your free Victim branded sacrificial altar. Just $29.99 shipping and handling. 1-800-PRS-SATAN. That's 1-800-PRAISE-SATAN.
And then, the last thing that was on my mind about it, because I'm trying in my brain. You said that the politics are not clear on purpose, but this entire time, I know what I've been doing is I've been trying to place them in relation to our other capitalism adjacent groups of interest,
sure,
such as Dedo Fine Capitalist and Marshall Carter and Dark, who 1%er capitalism.
Well, interesting you've said that, because myself and Ip wrote a Victim article that was crossing over with Dado. in which Dotto hires Victim to do an advertising campaign for them.
Are you serious?
Oh, absolutely. That one is SCP-6780, and I am really happy with that one as well.
SCP-6. Did you say 6780?
6780. Yeah, which
I'm
is
just gonna peek at that real quick. I mean, first thing I
which
gotta
is
do.
it's titled "Health by Dotto," presented by Vikander-Kneed Technical Media.
Oh Lord. First thing I gotta do, obviously, is this is 5681 is a thumbs up, is a up vote from Dr. Sherman, and also someone else in the chat I think upvoted. So you're up to 93 now. Great success.
Yeah, this one's actually sort of an underperformer for Victim. Some of the other ones I've done, so I'll give maybe some examples without explaining. There is a SCP radio channel, that's 5889, where the radio specifically targets people and has like personalized broadcasts for them. And then the people get so scared that they forget what happened, but they remember the trauma. And then it's just filled with little snippets of weird otherworldly radio shows. There's another one that is a human resources orientation video, which I will say nothing more than that. And those are both like over 240. There's another one that's a documentary that follows around the viewer for the previous week as if they had a documentary crew following them. And it's being reviewed by a Foundation researcher who has been amnesticized and is presented with things that she's not aware happened. There's a puppet show.
Oh, no.
What else is? Yeah, there's a puppet show. There's a wildlife documentary. There's Harry Blank did a video game one. Plague and Jay Dune did a Halloween special one. Plague also did a Jazzercise video. I'm trying to think of. There's a lot. There's actually 33 articles, and I only created it last January. So
Holy
it's been,
hell!
yeah, it's been picking up steam. I'm really, really, really proud of it.
Good work, my dude. And honestly, I mean, as we've been talking about this now, the biggest thing that jumps out to me personally, the thing that frickin' Site42 fams got to keep an eye on, is that this here and also some of the other ones you just mentioned, the radio show, the puppet show, these would make amazing mixed media articles to pick up, either to have someone record them and like insert the clips into your articles or just to adapt them outside.
Yeah, they are often intentionally crafted that way. Some of them are a little more clinical from some of the other authors, but myself, I've always tried to get as quickly through the containment procedures and the description as possible. In fact, a lot of people have noted that the descriptions are actually like at most 2 or 3 paragraphs and very dry. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not the point. And we get into the context of the actual media, and it's always just little snippets because they all have medic effects and it's dangerous, etc., etc. And I just tend to write them like a script because I think of them as the actual media that they represent. I've actually, a little sneak peek. Myself and Vivarium are joining up together to do the contest entry for 7K for the 7,000 contest that is going on right now, that's posting in a few weeks. And we're doing something that may or may not relate to this, that may or may not have a video component.
Oh, that makes me excited.
I'm not quite done with everything, but I'm done with all the visuals and the video, and I wasn't even going to join 7K this time. I'm working a lot. Last time I joined with 6 other authors to do 6500, which was this like novel length article. I couldn't possibly do that on my own or anything like that again, and I just didn't even want to think about trying to match something of that intensity. And so I wasn't even going to do anything. And then I was convinced to do this, and it's basically a shit post, but like all Victim articles are. I mean, they all have. The thing is, what people don't realize is they think it's all just anti-capitalism. But honestly, Victim is just as often pro-capitalism as they are anti-capitalism. But I always have a specific purpose in mind. I just don't ever explain it. And when people really pushed, I have said, okay, Victim wants to make the world better, and the way that they're going to teach people how to do things in a better way is the same way that Homelander tried to teach his son how to fly, by throwing him off the building.
Ow. Off topic, not sponsored. The Boys Season 3 was amazing. Go watch it.
It was very good, yeah.
Very enjoyable.
But yeah, so I started off my career writing SCPs, my career, quote unquote, that were very serious, kind of gothic horror mixed with like kind of geopolitics to some extent. And I still write those occasionally. And I have also written some very kind of haunting articles or horror-based articles. But a lot of my effort over the past year and a half or so has been about Victim, because I get to like unleash. I wrote this article that we just read in like 3 hours. I've written most of them in a few hours, and I just kind of go into a zone and they just kind of vomit, and then I clean them up to make sure that they don't have mistakes and if they work or not. But people have compared it to like Lynchian, which I find very complimentary. But I've always been most influenced by Alan Resnick, if you're familiar with him.
I am not.
Okay, so have you ever heard of This House Has People in It, or The Children of the Mirror?
Yes, I have heard of that.
Okay, so he's like the main writer behind that theater group. And so I don't know if he's the main, but he's done a lot of the writing and directing for that. And so he, for example, May I Please Enter, if you've ever seen that. Or unedited footage of a bear.
Now that one I've heard of.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's, I never have tried to copy his content, but in terms of like his tone, the tone of those pieces, but applied to SCP has been strong. I didn't even realize it at first until a fellow author, Famine Pulse, pointed it out to me that it reminded him of Alan Resnick, and I went, "Oh, yeah, no, that's actually a deep influence. I didn't even think of it."
I feel like the genre one could call that is simply Tim and Eric, but horror.
Yeah. Sure. I think so too. Absurdity, but absurdity applied. So, I called these humor articles, but I mostly am trying to go for an uncomfortable laugh at all times. I'm never trying to just tell jokes. I would never make one of these a Dash J, because they're not joke articles. They're serious. It's just they're absurd. And sometimes they're creepy as fuck. And then sometimes they'll swing back into the absurd. And I love that weird. I don't even know. Like I just live for it. And so every person that is, even Dr. Sumerian wrote one recently, 6613.
Nice.
It's gotten a lot of support, and I'm really, really proud of it. And it also, even while we were reading it, there were parts of it that made me want to laugh, and which is hard to do when you're looking at something you've written. So I'm very happy with it.
The voice is very clear, and it's a character you've seen before, but not exactly like this. I get shades of like Cousin Johnny-esque supernatural bad guy stuff, but with that used car salesman charm on top of it.
Oh yeah, and this is the only article where this character has shown up. They're often different people, mostly because I don't want... So one of the things I put onto the... because it is a GOI, so I have welcomed contributions from anybody. It's free to... I just put a golden rule. There's no explanation of anything to do with their motives, their origins, or how they do what they do. Specifically, don't go into deep discussions of how they make anomalies, but they are obviously a media company. So this isn't torture porn, although we have violence and horror in these articles. This isn't about extreme gore. They should be focused on the implication of horrible violence, but also social commentary, comedy, and the ways medias affect us. Additionally, there is no face of this company. There is no Wondertainment or Anderson equivalent. We don't get to see how Victim operates from their perspective. If you want to characterize their motives or behavior, keep it vague and restrained to the media itself, meaning like read between the lines stuff. So for the human resources article, which is 5904, that is entirely, it's just a transcript of the media. The same thing with all of these. So we never get to see behind the scenes. We never see internal documents. Until recently, I did have them show up at the... so people, a lot of fans have asked me or talked about it online. Who are these people? What are they like? And I've always just been very resistant. And so as a joke, I wrote the most recent article that I wrote, which was 6897, You Won't Believe How the Sausage is Made, which is supposedly a behind-the-scenes exclusive documentary on how Victim makes media and like a tour around their headquarters. And the article proceeds to explain nothing. So I have a lot of fun with it.
How weird, how weird.
Well, yeah, it is weird fiction. It's strange fiction.
And it's just like SCP is a very interesting format because it allows so much to happen because you're not really tied down to, say, a single concept like Slender Man or the Backrooms. You have a lot more flexibility in the universe. It seems like a big factor of Victim doing its job is that you have so many different directions you can go because you're not allowing for that centralization that kind of pigeonholes it.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty clear, and I would strongly advise someone not from doing something that was like socially conservative with Victim. But otherwise, whatever people want to do. I mean, some of the articles are just comedy. Sumerians is basically just a 1,000-word joke, which is excellent. Like, I laughed my ass off when I got to the end of it.
I would be shocked at a media company that's so, like, pushing boundaries, pushing where they are. I mean, that's not quite progressive in politics, but it's definitely not standing on tradition as one would take the real meaning of the word conservative to be.
Yeah. I mean... I would hope so too, but there's no canon and all that. People can think whatever they like, but it is a lot more fun that I just have refused to define the canon. I have answers, like I have the deep-seated lore in my head as to how they do this and what they are doing, and I've written it all down. I have like a fucking Bible about it. I just refuse to explain it to anyone, even my co-authors.
And then you get to see what everyone else makes out of it while you're still getting
so
to
much,
do your own
thing. It's so much fun. Like, I will sometimes go onto Discord, either the, SCPD or other ones that are kind of SCP spaces, and I will sometimes just search out VKTM and see what people are talking about. And sometimes you'll see these big, deep conversations about people theorizing, and it's just so fucking great. And I'm like, oh, I like that one. And they'll be like, oh, is that it? No comment. What are you talking about? I'm not, I won't reveal that. And, like I said to you before we even started, streaming, at this point, if I was to reveal the deep sea secrets, it probably would disappoint people. It's better to let people's imagination go nuts while I get to continue telling my weird stories.
It gives people a lot more freedom not knowing, because then they can use their imagination within the box you already have.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing that does it really well is what Looney in the chat has called candy-coated in darkness vibe. I call... What's the phrase I'm looking for? In a TikTok video, I recently talked about how to make an article or concept that goes mimetic on the wiki, because people want people to make fan art and be big fans of their articles, not just be successful, but be wildly successful. And one of the two things I said were keep it simple. Obviously, if it's too complicated, it can't thrive. But because you have to take too long to explain it for it to be a good meme. But the one that Victim really nails is the what the fuck factor, which is part 2. You need to... If an article makes you say, what the fuck? Then that emotional reaction is triggered. It sticks with you from now on.
No, and I mean, I intentionally go for that most of the time. I am thinking about the pacing and the way that I end little segments like here. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, because I have, Kincaid, the host of this game show, breaks character several times. And so I don't even dedicate myself to the rules that I set up in the beginning oftentimes. There are weird time inconsistencies here that I won't explain to anyone either. For example, the video is over 14 hours long, and yet somehow the executive watched it multiple times in a single day, which is impossible. And people have pointed that out to me, and I went, yeah, that's true.
And that's not a plot hole? No, not at all.
Nope. And it wasn't. I had a whole paragraph in there explaining it, and then I went, what if I just deleted that? Great. Okay, it's gone now.
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
Yeah, and it all kind of came out of the first article, which was Amnestic, capital A, capital M, Nestic, which was written by myself and Dissidron, another author. And Dissidron, he just told me he had this idea for an anomaly that made people so scared they would forget the original anomaly, and then but the emotional trauma would stick around. And that's all he gave me. And I came back to him 24 hours later with this draft about a radio show, a radio channel that specifically targets people. And it just became this very flow of consciousness. And most of these articles are, where I just kind of go. And sometimes I get really in-depth, and then I go back and I cut out the in-depth stuff oftentimes. Because I don't know. That's not what this vibe is for. If I stopped and explained a deep lore explanation of where they come from and what they're doing, then no one would be going, what the fuck? And I like them. I like people going, what the fuck?
All right, I've got a request for you before we move on to Super Chats, and I need you to give the audience here one victim article that you think they should go read after this stream, and one victim article that you were shocked at what another author made with it. Good or bad? I'd prefer good, though.
Yeah. Okay. So, article that I think everyone should go read is A Movie of You, which is SCP-5479. That's by myself. And then another victim article. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to suggest by Callie Bold, SCP-6156, which is called Oh Doug! Exclamation point. And actually, Doug. We'll do two. We're going to do two for this. And the other one I'm going to suggest is SCP-6358, Messiah, in all capital letters by Machin 2.
So what shocked you about the direction they took that?
Oh, Doug. So all of these articles are sort of encased within the larger universe that Harry Blank has set up called On God 43, which is about Site 43. And it has established characters in it, but you don't need to know any of them. Oh, Doug does a wonderful job of surgically disassembling the tropes of a what do you call it? What is Friends called? The show Friends? It's a sitcom. Sorry.
What is the show Friends called? What's the name of the show Friends?
I know. Sorry. So it just disassembles the tropes of a sitcom, while also, if you were informed about this stuff from Site 43, it overlaps things in this really brilliant way, but it completely stands on its own. You don't need to know anything about it because of this strange and wonderful story that it tells. And much like the one we just read, it has a lot of what the fuck. And that's 6156. And then the other one I said was 6358, where someone did something that I didn't expect, which was I had avoided doing a book because this is, Victim does media of all sorts, but I thought, what's the point of just recreating a series of excerpts from a book? I never thought I could really pull that off in the same way that the scripts sort of formatting would work. And Machin with 6358 did this really intense sort of attack on charismatic leaders. It sort of. It's not really that. It's kind of a fantasy novel, and it's kind of a commentary on charismatic political leaders, and it's kind of a discussion of like religion. It's brilliant, and it has a lot of what the fuck, and it's way darker, and it's not funny. And which I love about Victim is that it's a spectrum. They can go from as light as possible, where Sumerian's article is basically just a joke that plays on wordplay, and it's brilliant. And it can go incredibly dark, like Messiah, where it is full of kind of social commentary, but also just horror. And you know, I've done things like the Puppet Show, and I've done things like a children's record, which is literally just lyrics of a song. That's the whole article. Because it's wide open. It's media. What couldn't you do with media? Anything.
Now I'm very afraid of what the Vikander technical media, Vikander-Kneed technical. I gotta learn how to say it all at once. Vikander, because I say Vikander, and as soon as I say Vic, I get it all wrong. I am terrified what the TikTok version of Vikander-Kneed technical media is.
Yeah, I've actually, you know, I have kind of a baby TikTok myself that I've been putting up little video edits of like little snippets of like advertising and whatnot, which is at Grigori Karpin if anyone's interested. And I've got, I think, probably like 10 or 11 on there, and I think I'll continue doing that because it's fun. You know, a lot of times I'm working now, so I'm not as it's not as easy to, you know, make an article a week like I was doing for a while. And this, you know, it takes very little effort to write the script of like 15 seconds. And so then I just find a CC compliant image and I start messing around with video editing, and suddenly I've got, you know, a tiny little TikTok that's like an ad for some Victim product or another.
Make sure to check out that TikTok, y'all. All right, real quick here at the hour mark, let me knock out these super chats. We only had a couple. Desk, thank you for using a super chat to warn me about the mic volume because I hadn't seen it. I am probably going to refund you that super chat because that's just staff work. And then Timekeep. Was not familiar with SCP-670 until you just told me about it in your super chat. And if I would say it has Coralline vibes, it seems like the Coralline vibes are aesthetic only. And, you know, when I think about vibes, I think about the whole story. So I see the yarn, I see the clay, I see what seems like stop motion here. I just don't see the, you know, the horror of Coralline the same way that it is in the movie, where it's all family drama and stuff like that. But that covers our super chats, easy peasy for the night. And so, Grig, anything left to promote to the audience?
Yeah, so just, you know, it's repetitive, but please go and check out Harry and my podcast, Simply Creative People. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher, and the website for the show is in the description. We've put out 17 episodes about all sorts of different GOIs. We did one on comedy, and we just put out a bonus episode that was Harry and I doing some readings like we've done here today. Which is in the bonus one, I do a reading with some people of 5889, which is the very first Victim article.
Oh, fantastic. Is that episode about Victim, or is that just a bonus part of the bonus episode?
It's just a bonus episode. I've been avoiding doing Victim because sometimes I have a hard time talking about things that I have done. Like being a guest is in talking about an article is cool. But people have been saying, "Oh, you should do an episode on the podcast of Victim," and I will do it, but I've been holding off because I want to do something weird with it. Probably
we'll call
like
this episode "Dipping Your Toe in the Pool of Talking About Your Baby." Here,
yes.
All right, I'm gonna put you on mute for the end of the show, and then we'll move over to the patron stream. Sound good?
Thanks, everybody.
All right. And Site42 fam, that brings us to the end of our first reunion episode of the anomalous broadcast from Site42. It's been a year, but I hope that the upgrades to the aesthetics and the internet speed and the lag, and hopefully the volume is just as loud next time. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you learned something about the Foundation and Vikander-Kneed technical media. Thank you again to Grigori Karpin I said it French for some reason. Grigori Karpin for joining the show. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. And become a patron if you want to see the after show we're about to hop over to. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next anomalous broadcast from Site-42. Ada Ada, Shadow of 1471. Ada Ada.